So as a basketball fan, the most enjoyable conversations to have are about who is the better player. Now don't get me wrong, it's fun to debate about legacies, cultural impact, and basically most basketball related things. But there's something about looking at the resume and abilities of two players and saying, I think this one is better, and here's why. That right there is going to get everyone talking most of the time, especially when those players are fairly similar players. Now I just remember being a kid in the barbershops, and these conversations would get the whole shop going, spend more time talking about sports than getting my hair cut. But enough with the introduction to why I'm starting this series. Let's talk about the two players that's going to be discussed in today's video. Stephen Curry and Dwyane Wade. Two small guards that help lead teams to championships, yet no one has ever once asked who was the better player. Which is interesting because we've had multiple conversations about who's better between Wade and James Harden, as well as multiple conversations about who's better between Harden and Curry. Yet no one even thinks about who is better between Wade and Curry. So today I'm answering the question no one asked. Lucky y'all. Now before I answer this question, I'm going to need y'all to press the subscribe button because it's like the greatest button of all time, and also it'll be really appreciated. Your boy really needs some subscriptions. He's almost halfway to his goal of 500. Almost halfway there, not even to the halfway point. But I got 225 subscribers. I haven't posted in a while. I'm sorry y'all, but dang, I'm just so excited that I got 225, almost to 250. That means I'm gonna be halfway to my goal of 500. I don't know if I'm gonna reach my goal of 500 by the end of the year, but I'm sure gonna try. So go ahead and hit that subscribe button, help me out if y'all be so kind. And with all that, intro stuff out of the way, let's drop the intro. So to decide who's the best, we're going to use sections and basically say how good each player is in each section. The sections are going to be scoring, playmaking, defense, accolades, and miscellaneous. The miscellaneous section will basically be a section that adds context into subjects that the other four sections fail to do so. Each section will be graded on a scale of 1 to 20, and the one with the most points win. So let's jump into the first section, which is scoring. So we'll start with Stephen Curry. Stephen Curry is the greatest shooter in NBA history, and it's not even close in my opinion. We have never seen a player shoot the volume of threes that Steph shoots while still being able to remain as efficient as Steph is. As a shooter, Steph can go off the dribble or spot up. He can get a shot off any way he wants from any distance, and it's still going to be considered a great shot because he's just built that way. But another underrated aspect of Curry's scoring ability is how good of a finisher he is. Most people don't think of Curry's finishing ability because they're so amazed with his ability to shoot the ball, but Curry is one of the greatest finishers at the point guard position, having a career 64.7 field goal percentage at the rim, which is higher than names like Kyrie, Westbrook, and John Wall. So as a scorer, I will give Curry a 20 out of 20. Now talking about Wade scoring is easier because he's not a shooter, and that makes discussing him easier because people want to say, oh, he's just a shooter like they would when talking about Curry. Hence why I separate Curry's scoring ability into two categories, shooting and finishing. Wade is simple. Wade averaged 22 points per game for his career and even led the league in scoring for the 2009 NBA season. He's one of the greatest guard finishers and mid-range shooters in NBA history. Also, he's a pretty good post player, which isn't talked about enough because he's only 6'4", but Wade could post you up like Kobe and hit a turnaround jumper on you like it was nothing. Just saying. The only real weakness he had is that he wasn't a great three-point shooter, so that did affect his off-ball ability somewhat, but not as much as some might believe because he was a good cutter and still moved around off-ball, but I still have to dock him some points, so his overall score for scoring is a 16 out of 20. Next up is playmaking. When it comes to playmaking, Stephen Curry is very underrated as an overall playmaker because most people look at assist numbers and think that he's just average at playmaking, but that's just not true. Assists per game is a factor in deciding playmaking ability, but it's not the end all be all, and there are more important things than just assists per game, and Steph is the poster child for that. The presence of Steph creates playmaking because anytime he's on the court, so much attention is placed on containing him, which opens up the floor for the rest of the team. His gravity is the biggest reason that the Warriors have some of the greatest ball movement that we've ever seen because teams are trying to make the right rotations on defense while focused on Steph, who's zipping around the court causing mayhem. His gravity is basically the equivalent of a pass to assist because Draymond, Iggy, and the rest of the team can now make easier passes to more open players. So yeah, Steph earned another 18 out of 20 when it comes to playmaking. Now, Wade as a playmaker is a little above average. Like, he isn't a great playmaker, but he's good. He makes the right pass and has a pretty high basketball IQ, hence why he's probably a top 5 player in terms of getting to the free throw. And in my opinion, the ability to get to the free throw line should be considered when discussing playmaking, because a player who gets to the line dictates the defense another team plays, which inadvertently opens up the court. So that's another thing to consider. On top of that, he's not a bad off-ball player. He fills in the lanes well on breaks and cuts, so that's another aspect of Wade's impact when playmaking. Ultimately, I will give him a score of 15 out of 20 in terms of playmaking. Now, moving on to defense. Defense is the one category that Stephen Curry is not great at. I wouldn't even say he's good on the defensive end, but he's not as terrible as, say, Trae Young, so that's something. There's no real way to sugarcoat Steph's defense or say he's underappreciated on that end, because it just wouldn't be true. Steph has benefited from playing with other good defenders such as Draymond, Iggy, Clay, and a few others. These defenders have found a way to hide Steph on that end of the floor, and in return he's become a pretty good team defender, jumping past lanes and stuff like that, but that doesn't make up for the fact that overall you can't completely trust Steph to hold up against other star guards one-on-one defensively. Because of that, I gave him an 8 out of 20 for his defense. D-Wade, on the other hand, was one of the better defenders on the perimeter in his era, making 3 all-defensive teams in the era that included Kobe Bryant, Chris Paul, Jason Kidd, Rajon Rondo, Tony Allen, and just a ton of other strong defensive guards. On top of that, he is the greatest shot-blocking guard in NBA history, averaging a block per game in 6 different seasons, and in my opinion falls in that Klay Thompson category of being a good to great defender who isn't always noticed for his defensive impact. So in this category, I'm giving D-Wade an 18 out of 20, which takes me into the next section, accolades. So when it comes to accolades, Stephen Curry is one of the most decorated players in NBA history, even though I feel most people don't realize it. He's a 3-time champion, 2-time MVP, he's a 7-time All-NBA player, 7-time All-Star, and 2-time scoring champ. He's already accomplished all of that, and he's only in year 12. So he's going to be adding to his already impressive resume. And one of the things I expect him to add by the end of the year, is the all-time three-pointers made, as he's only 111 three-pointers away from breaking the record. So we can consider that record crushed by the time he's all said and done. So in this category, it should be obvious, but Steph earned a 20 out of 20 for accolades. Now, surprisingly, D-Wade is less accomplished than I actually expected, but he's still one of the more accomplished players in NBA history. Wade is a 3-time NBA champ, as well as the Finals MVP for the 2006 NBA Finals, as well as a 13-time All-Star, 8-time All-NBA, 3-time All-Defense, and the 2009 NBA scoring champ in his 16-year NBA career. The only knock to Wade is that he's never won the MVP, nor has been the runner-up, coming in 3rd place back in 2009, as well as only making first-team All-NBA twice. But part of that is because he played in the same era as Kobe, so I'm not going to knock him too much for that, but I have to mention it. So in this category, I'll give Wade a 17 out of 20, which leads me to the final category, which is the miscellaneous category, which again covers things that don't really fit into the other categories. Now, what makes Stephen Curry so special isn't just the ability to shoot the ball, but the versatility of his shot making that creates what we call gravity. As a defense, you have to apply so much focus to Steph that other guys have so much space to get a good shot, and Steph knows this, so he uses this to his advantage, making him the greatest weapon in NBA history, which translates to the greatest ceiling raiser in NBA history. Personally, to me, there is no all-time starting lineup that I could put together that wouldn't include Steph, because Steph's gravity is going to bring out the best of any of the all-time greats I could put next to him. So definitely a 20 out of 20 for the miscellaneous category. Now, I want to start off by saying that Wade is a great basketball player, but he really doesn't have a transcendent skill. The closest thing to a transcendent skill he has is that he's the greatest shot blocking guard of all time. But that doesn't mean a whole lot from a guard's perspective, just because most guards are not going to be put in a position to block shots. So while he's great from a guard's perspective, I can't really give him that as far as other things. Yeah, he's a clutch player, but I wouldn't call him one of the most clutch players of all time. I don't think he's in my top 5 most clutch players. He's a great finisher, especially for a guard, so I guess that's something. But I still don't know if I would call his finishing transcendent or just extremely gifted or special. And the same goes for his mid-range game, which was also pretty damn good. Since he doesn't have a transcendent skill set, I can't give him a perfect score in this category. but he has skills that he could argue he's a top 10 at that particular skill, such as finishing or his mid-range game. So in this category, I'll give him a 15 out of 20. The final score for Steph was 86, and the final score for D-Wade was 81. Honestly, before I broke this down, I was thinking Wade was the better and greater player. But once I started analyzing both players, I realized I had underappreciated what Steph was, because he basically won every category except for defense, which he lost in that category pretty bad, which helped Wade make the final scores close. And even the defense category, I might have undervalued Steph. Personally, I like D-Wade more because I feel like he inspired D Rose, who is my favorite player, a lot. Since they're both from Chicago, and young Rose reminded me a lot of D-Wade with his body control and handle. But regardless of that, Steph is the better player and is today's winner of the versus battle. But y'all let me know in the comment section below if I got it right. Also, if y'all made it this far, do your boy a solid and give me that HBO special by liking and subscribing, and I'll catch y'all on the next one. Peace.